Welcome back, everybody. So we're gonna wrap this shed hunting season up. I'm not sure what video exactly this is, but anyways, I think I'm done finding sheds unless I stumble across some turkey hunting, which oftentimes I do. But this is it on the year right here. We found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 sheds, and one really nice big deadhead over here. So that's a heck of a year for me. Nearly all of these sheds I found within just a couple miles of the house here. I've gotten tons and tons of questions on how I shed hunt and why I shed hunt, where I shed hunt, and all kinds of stuff, and I'll go ahead and answer those on this video. But first I'll just show you some close-ups of these sheds. This is the buck that we called the Bully 7. He shed pretty early on, actually shed during hunting season, I believe. And then here's all the other ones. I could tell you a story on each one of them, but the video would be too long if I did that. So we found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets, which is awesome. And you know you're doing good when you find sheds that are that big. That was laying in the Nebraska food plot. But hope everybody enjoyed watching all these shed hunting videos. I have a lot of fun getting out in the spring and looking for these sheds. We didn't find some of the ones we were looking for, the big brow tine buck in particular. We looked everywhere, couldn't find them. I know they're out there, but it is what it is. It is April 17th today, and I'll show you what it's doing out here. Snowing like crazy on April 17th, and we're supposed to get a bunch more tonight, so unbelievable. There's the 2019 archery buck. It scored 127 inches. Always like showing that pintail off too. But anyways, I'm gonna find some of the questions that were asked on these videos and sit down and answer them with you now. Okay, everybody, so we're back, and I've got the questions written down from throughout my shed hunting episodes. People have asked numerous questions, and I'm just going to answer a few of them for you. So the first and most common question is, where's the best place to look for sheds? And I've been doing this for quite a few years now, and that's kind of a hard question to answer, in the sense that it all depends. You know, where it's a good place for me to look might not be the same, case for you. But what I will tell you is it all comes down to food and bedding. So wherever that buck is feeding, late winter, and wherever he is bedding, and in between those two spots is where you're going to find his sheds in most cases. So with that, I would say you need to get trail cameras out in the woods after hunting season. You need to get those on food sources and on heavy travel corridors, bedding areas. Get the trail cameras out in the woods and lock down where these big bucks are staying, or any bucks for that matter. And you're going to have success finding sheds. Honestly, this year I found most of my sheds in the transition area from bedding to feeding, where they were going to and from. Bedding and feeding is where I found most of my sheds this year. So like I said, it's kind of a hard question to answer. It all depends, your in particular scenario. But I get lots of questions, saying that, they've been walking all over the place and they've looked for hours and days and can't ever find a shed. Well, what I would say to that is, it's not that you're a bad shed hunter. What the reality of it is, there's probably not any sheds there in most cases. I'll give you an example. So we had a bunch of deer that wintered down below our farm this year, and I put a bunch of cameras down there and tracked all the deer movement. There was only one decent little buck that wintered down there. It was all does for the most part. Tons and tons of does. If you walked into that woods in the winter and looked, you'd be absolutely blown away by the amount of deer sign in there. You know, with all the deer that wintered in there, there was not a single good buck that was in that woods. So you could go down there and walk every square foot of that woods, and you're not going to find a shed or a good shed. And that's because there wasn't a good buck that wintered in there, and that's that. It's not that you're a bad shed hunter, it's just that the shed's not there. And that's another good bit of advice I can give you. You really got to know, you really got to figure out where these bucks are at and where they're wintering, and you're going to have some luck finding good sheds. What are some of these other questions here? When do you start looking for sheds? Well, that one's pretty simple. So I have tons of trail cameras out, obviously in the winter, and I'm watching where these bucks are traveling to get to and from, you know, their food source. So right after hunting season's over, what I'll do is I'll be monitoring all my brassica food plots, and you know, you'll see what bucks are hitting that food plot. And then at that point, you can even fine tune your search. You can start moving those trail cameras off the food source on those travel corridors. You can obviously see, you know, huge trails in the snow where these deer are traveling, and you can start moving those cameras back on those trails, you know, and moving them around in multiple trails, and you can actually pinpoint the trail that big buck's usually coming out to the food plot. Granted, he changes, you know, what trails he's going out on, but for the most part, when you catch them in that winter, you know, that late winter routine, they're doing the same thing every single day, unless, you know, you have a bunch of people go in the woods and, you know, totally screw everything up. But as long as, you know, without anybody screwing the deer up, they're going to do the same thing every day, and you can really pinpoint where that buck is you know, coming from pretty easily. But I won't go shed hunting until I know for a fact that deer shed its antlers. Like this year, for instance, that big heavy 8-point, I was watching him on the trail camera almost every night, and all of a sudden I noticed a big bodied deer with 2 bloody pedicles, and obviously you knew the deer had shed its antlers. So, and that was the one buck that I really wanted to find. There's obviously other bucks in the woods that had not shed their antlers yet, but at that point, it doesn't really care. I want to find that big buck shed, so I'm going in after them while there's still a lot of sign, and I can really, you know, try to track them horns down. But I'll start shed hunting when I see, you know, the bucks that I want to find start dropping. But this year, if you watched the second shed video, maybe the first one, I actually jump a couple pretty nice bucks while I'm shed hunting, and I video them run away. And I mean, obviously that it's kind of sour when you do jump big bucks when you're shed hunting, but that's just part of it when you get out there early. And it depends on if you're in a area that a lot of people get out and shed hunt. You know, if you're on public land or if you're on a private piece that a lot of people have access to, you got to get out there early to try to find those horns, because somebody else will. But yeah, I just wait until I see the buck starting to shed and I go after them. But let's see what some of these other questions are here. How far do you normally walk on a normal shed hunt? It all depends, really. It's what I'm feeling up to. If I were to average it out, I would say I walk 2.5 miles for shed hunt. You know, sometimes I walk a lot more than that. Sometimes I walk less. It obviously depends on the amount of time I have and what I'm finding. Do you find most of your sheds in food plots or in the woods? Well, I kind of already answered that question for you. I find them pretty much everywhere. I found quite a few of them in my food plots this year, but I found a bunch of them in the transition in between food and bedding. Probably, to be honest with you, the least amount of horns I found this year ever were in the bedding areas. A lot of times in years past, I've had really good luck in the bedding areas. This year, it wasn't really the case. I was finding a lot of them in the food sources and in the transition areas, as you could see if you watched a lot of my shed hunting videos from this year. Okay, so this guy asked, what do you do with all your sheds that you find each year? So I just pretty much collect the sheds. I've found a bunch in years past, and I just kind of have a box full of sheds. And when somebody kills one of the deer that I found sheds to, one of the neighbors, I'll take the sheds up and give it to him just to have with the horns. It's kind of a cool story, and it shows the growth from year to year. And same with with Kaylee and I, like the buck that Kaylee killed this year, I found both of his sheds last year out here behind the house, so it's kind of cool to have the sheds right with the horns on the wall. So that's pretty much what I do with them. I want to make I want to get a coffee table that's got a glass top with a box underneath of it, and I could put all the sheds, you know, under the glass top on that coffee table. So I think that would look pretty cool in the living room. But right now I'll show you where I have them all. Well, not all of them, but the ones I found this year I have all stuck in this glass container here. It's kind of a cool way to display them, really. But another thing that I'll mention to you guys that are watching so you don't make the same mistake I did. This Ruger Airhawk Elite 2. I picked this pellet gun up to shoot starlings out here that are causing problems with our bluebirds. And this is the worst pellet gun I've ever shot in my entire life. My Red Ryder BB gun I got when I was 6 shot way better than this thing does. So if you're in the pellet gun business or you're looking to buy one, don't even look at this stupid thing. I put 4 different scopes on that thing to try to sight this thing in with multiple different types of pellets, and I couldn't get it to shoot any type of a group at all at like 15 steps. And finally I was talking to a buddy and he said take the scope off and shoot it with the iron sights. So I did that. This thing sucks. I can't believe Ruger would even put their name or brand on something so terrible as this. This thing's pretty much good enough to go right into the dumpster. And I usually don't talk badly about, you know, products that I buy or use, but I mean, I'm gonna be honest, this thing is terrible. Don't ever buy one of these. So with that, I got off topic, but I hope everybody enjoyed the shed hunts this year, and I really want to thank all the patrons of the channel. You guys are obviously, you know, the heartbeat behind the channel. I say that on a lot of these videos, but it's true. You guys really keep things moving for us and keep the heartbeat beating. So thanks everybody, and I'll see you shortly on another video.